In this video, I'm going to go over the breakout boxes a little bit. So this is where we get into the EVC system and we have to do some diagnosis of it. I'm going to talk over the heater while it's running right now. It should shut off in a minute. So in the workshop manual, if we go into the very beginning of the book, Special Tools is going to bring me to page 6. And on page 6, I have the list here of the special tools. And for EVC, we're talking about electronics. So breakout box number 1 is actually the breakout box for diesel engines. So this breakout box is a 5-pin breakout box, and it has all of the connectors on it that have to do with the D4, D6, D3, and larger diesel engines that are EDC or electronically controlled. So there are 2 connectors for each. There's a male connector and a female connector. Okay. One would plug into the harness, the engine harness, and the other one would plug into the sensor. So you break into the harness, and I'll show you how to use that in the book at a later time. The second breakout harness is going to be used with the breakout box, which is a larger breakout box, this one, and that part number is 9998699. That is this special tool, which is another breakout box. So this breakout box is basically has 62 pins in it, and one end of it is just a connection. Okay, so that is a part number that's the part number of the breakout box. Okay, then we have the adapters for it. So there's several different adapters, so let me go through those. So 9511355 is used for joystick steering. So that's the break-in harness that breaks into the SCU. The next harness is 888-20040, and it looks very much like the one above it. They look very much the same because they're very close looking. All right, this is the break-in and breakout harness, okay, for the PCU. So basically what you would do is take the PCU, take your X3 connection, the big one here, it has a slide lock, you'd unplug that harness. Yep, just like that. I'm gonna move another breakout box out of the way. Okay, and then we can slide lock that in. Then we would slide the harness onto here and put the slide lock onto that. Now the other end of this harness obviously is going to go to the big breakout box. So it's going to attach here. So now we can break into all 29 of the pins. And they are numbered sequentially from 1 through 28. So if you follow the book, you'll be able to follow the pin numbers. And it's all laid out in the EVC book. Okay. Now the last one is this harness over here, and this harness is 888-90016. And that is this harness. Now this harness is the adapter that goes directly into the box. So I will put this onto the breakout box, okay? Very straightforward, just line it up, push it in. Tighten it up. Be very careful with these breakout boxes because they're nothing more than a print board, so never drop them. If they drop them, a lot of times the soldered print board breaks, and then you get either an intermittent or you get resistance in one of the pins. I've already had that happen to one of the lab ones. So probably the more common one that you'll see is the 6-pin adapter. So let's use this for example for a multi-link harness, and I want to break into the multi-link harness. Since we're working with the breakout box, I figured I'd also show you how to take the Deutsch Connectors apart. So if you look up closely, you're going to see there's 2 slight little slots here and here. So you need this, special Delphi tool, which is a very fine flat end. They're very cheap. I'll put the part number up here for you so you can look online for it. Okay, if you search for that, it's a Packard product, and it will be the adapter, and it's got a very fine blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip the screwdriver end of the special tool underneath that and slide it in a little bit, hold my finger out here so it doesn't fly up in the air, and lightly pry. So if you lightly pry on it, you can see it pops right out. That's easy way to take them out. Okay, now let's say I want to take one of the wires out of this. Now if I look inside, and I'm going to see if I can turn the light on here. Yep. Then you can see there's little clips there. So those little clips, you just pry those little clips up with this tool a little bit. Okay, and when you do that, you can pull the wire out. So I'm going to pick on this black wire here. I'm going to say that this ground wire has a problem. So let me get this untwisted a little bit so I can get my fingers on the wire. It's a little stiff. All right, so now I got my fingers on the wire, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my index finger underneath here. I'm going to push up on the connector while I'm pulling down on the wire. So that black wire, I've got to take that tab. I'm going to pry lightly down on the tab and pull. So I pressed it right out. So here comes the connector out. Okay. Now, inside, obviously, there are some little tabs, and that's that little lock tab, and that little lock tab sticks right on the end of that and keeps that connector from coming out. When you put it back in, it's even easier to put it back in. Just slide it through the boot. Doesn't have a direction, doesn't have to be a specific way it goes back in. I'm going to slide it all the way in until the connector comes up through. And once it's all the way up there, give it a little tug. I look back in there, and I can see that that connector is locked in there. And that's it. I'll just put that little lock tab back on here. Okay. And that, there's no real tabs. It's a tapered fit, and it just is spring loaded in there. So snap it back in with your finger and you're good to go. All right, so we've done that. Now what we're going to do is I want to look at connecting into the breakout. So say I wanted to break into this harness. I'm going to unplug this from the HCU, okay? And then what I need to do is I need to break into the harness with it. Okay? I'm going to put this end back on. So I've got one of these here too. All right, so here is the harness from the breakout box. So I have the female and the male end, all right, ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this end into the HCU, the male end, which is what this used to break into. And then I am going to plug this end into the breakout box. So now I can read those pins on this breakout box. So let's go over the next part of that breakout box, which is a little bit different. Okay. Only really for this application do you have a way that you have to decipher which one of these numbers corresponds to which one of these connectors, because we have different connectors. So rule of thumb is this. You start with the smallest connector, the smallest number, and you count up. So let me give you an example here. Get the little tools out of the way. Get them all untangled. Let's start with 2. All right, so we have breakout pins 1 and 2 for a 2-pin connector first. Those will correspond, pins 1 and 2 will correspond with pins 1 and 2. That's the only pins that are used in this harness. So pins 1 and 2 are strictly for the 2-pin breakout harness. All right, the next breakout harness is, you guessed it, the 3-pin breakout harness. So now we have 3 pins. All right, so 3-pin harness is pin 3, 4, 5. So if I look at this connector, on the end of it, I'll be able to see on the end of the connector which pins are which. Now, in the service literature, you're going to see that the 3-pin connectors it will be labeled in the book, whatever that component is, pins 1, 2, 3 for which colors, and then you just decipher on this which colors are pins 1, 2, and 3 are pins A, B, and C. So that means that these 3 pins are 3, 4, and 5. Now you've got the first 5 of these pins used up between a 2 and a 3 pin. Obviously next would be the 4-pin harness. Okay? So 4 pins would be pins 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now we have this solely used for pins 6 through 9. So we're done with those. Now you have your 6-pin harness. We're done with 9. So that means these 6 pins are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and then the last one in this group, second to last one, is an 8-pin. So an 8-pin would start on pin 16, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and end on 23. And then the 12-pin harness would be the last 12 pins. So it's sequentially in order from the lowest number to the highest number. All of the other adapters are all simply 29-pin, 28-pin connectors, and those are then sequentially up to pins 28, 29. Okay, not too hard. So far, so good? I hope so. All right, so next I'll be doing some more testing on the harnesses.